you all agree is a pretty precious resource, and in all facets of that resource, it needs to be cared for as the best as we can, whether we're using it for the potable water system or cleaning it up from a wastewater. As I said, we began in 1905. About 95% of our operations are in Delaware. We do have systems in Cecil County, Maryland, because they kind of butt up to Newcastle, so we've grown over into Cecil County. And we have a very small operation in southern Pennsylvania, again, an area that butts up. A little closer? Got it. Okay. So, and I'd say this is by far the biggest group I've ever spoken in front of, so we'll see how that all works out. But pretty good to be famous for a day. Again, we started on residential and commercial customers, government services, and again, we cover 284 square miles, and we are in all 3 counties. By the numbers, we have 188 active wells, we have 66 water treatment plants, we produced 7.9 billion gallons of water last year, serve over 300,000 people. We have 6 wastewater treatment plants, 60 million gallons of wastewater treated, and again, one of the things that in our wastewater side, again, we believe in the water cycle. None of our water that we treat, we return to surface water so it runs out to the stream. We return all of our wastewater back to the ground so that it stays within the water cycle and within Delaware. We have, again, 95 gallons of wastewater recycled for productive use, which means going back to farm irrigation. So we look at everything in comprehensive when we look at water. Artesian, we employ 245 people in the state of Delaware. Basically different qualifications. We have professional engineers, we have water quality specialists, we have road experts, we have people that are expert in transmission and distribution systems. We try and have the ability to pretty much work on anything that breaks within our internal resources, which doesn't mean we don't use outside assistance, but we try to be able to do everything we do and be able to do it in-house. And again, we provide, and I think you probably do some of the same, but annual water quality reports to make sure that the different areas that we're serving get the reports out from the different water qualities that might be in the different areas. Again, last year we invested about $270,000 in just water quality and monitoring for compliance. Again, basically we do testing within all our systems virtually daily, because we're looking at all the different chemicals and different things that are going on in the plants and so forth, and we do compliance sampling in all of our distribution systems on a monthly basis, so that again we know what's going on within the system. Again, I got to about 20 years in Sussex County. We started in South Bethany, served a little community called Cat Hill, then worked with the town to build a system within the town, expanded that system down to Fenwick, probably 15 years ago, probably a little longer than that, and then eventually the system has grown so that we reach out all the way to Selbyville now. Last year we installed an interconnection with Selbyville, so we have 2-way feeds between Selbyville and our system, and we've got systems that extend all the way up to getting up towards Dagsboro now. And our goal is to build a very interconnected system so that not one source of supply or a main break or a problem with a tank would put our customers out of service. And we work very hard to make sure certainly we have that kind of reliability. Just a map of the service territory that we have, showing some of the things. So you have South Bethany at the top. A little bit off the map is coming down through Fenwick, and then you can see where Swan Keys, the Bayville water treatment plant, the Selbyville interconnection, and so all that area in the blue are people and properties that have signed up and requested that we would provide them water service either now or in the future. Southern Sussex built in, again, it's all about with us being reliable and having the ability to not have our customers see a problem, even though there might be something occurring with a single plant or a part of the system. So we have multiple sources of supply and treatment. On the system that would serve this community, we have 1.5 million gallons of elevated storage. So even in a storm, that there would still be water pressure, that we don't rely on although all our stations have generators, we don't rely on that. We keep 1.5 million gallons of water in the air. And again, we have, I think everybody probably is really proud of the people they work with, but I'll tell you, we have a great staff, and we are 24/7. So we have a dispatch system that is 24/7 live. We have operators in the field 24/7. So if there's a problem, we are on it at the time it occurs, whether it's in the middle of the night, on a weekend, on Christmas Day, it really doesn't matter. We are always people in the field. Again, a little bit, that's our dispatch center. It's always got at least one person in the middle of the night, but usually 3 people during the day. So we're taking calls from our field crews. We're interacting with our regulators if there's a significant problem, and where customers can call in and find out what's going on. Investment in infrastructure. Again, one of the most important things that we believe that we do is we put back into our systems. So that's the investment in our infrastructure over the last 4 years. So we've ranged anywhere from 21 million to just under 50 million of putting money back into our system. To me, again, there's a lot of different things that we have to do. We have, we've been around since 1905, so we're constantly replacing old mains. Very important to replace the mains as they age. We are putting in treatment to get ahead of water quality. For example, in this area of this area of Delaware, there's a lot of natural organics in your water. I mean, they're in your water, they're in our water. When you take a water sample, they're just natural TOC. And when that reacts with chlorine, it develops what are called THMs. And it's a problem prevalent. It's probably in your dead ends, as the water will sit in your dead ends and so forth. And it's one of the industries, everybody's working to fix that. Well, last year we installed the system in Bayville, and we are actually using the elevated tank that you can see across the street as a large storage and treatment reservoir. So as the chlorine and the organics interact, develops these THM. Well, they very much want to go off into the air. I mean, they would like to rather be in air than in water. So we've developed a little aeration system within our tank, and it pulls those off. And we basically cut our THMs in our system in half from last year to this year. And again, it's one of those things that you don't think about day to day, but we have to think about it every day. So it's one of those things that, again, we're always working and always trying to handle those. Actually, it's so successful, we're going to put it up in our South Bethany system next. The system down this way, so we have, again, 2 current water treatment plants. We have a 2 million gallon a day plant in South Bethany. We have a 2 million gallon a day plant here at Bayville. We're just under construction of a 3rd plant doing the well drilling now up towards Dagsboro. And again, all of these will be linked together so that we're providing the kind of service that all of our customers expect. That we're even in the, again, our goal is to always be able to have, if our largest plant goes out, we are still able to maintain service. So in every system we have, if something goes down, no matter if the largest one of kind what we have, we still have reserve sources of supply and treatment to keep in service. So again, very important that our customers never run out of water. As I say, that it's very regional. All the systems will have iron removal system at a minimum. Again, currently 2 water storage tanks, and again, all our systems would have backup generators. This is just a little map of the area, and it kind of shows where just kind of the localized main structures. So again, we're obviously prevalent in the area around you. And so Swan Keys is a natural ability to serve. Again, it's just that where it's located is pretty easy for us to do. As I said, close proximity to Artesian's facilities. Again, for a lot of reasons, and I'm sure they'll come up in some of the questions, that the way the system's set up, it's very easy us to provide probably the most affordable water in our entire system to Swan Keys. And the reason is you have a pretty good distribution system within your community. It's made out of PVC. It has a relatively good history of needing repairs. From what I could tell, is that you only spend about $5,000 a year in maintaining the distribution system. Most of the money that you guys have to invest in your system is in the supply and treatment, which isn't a surprise. Supply and treatment is tough. I mean, you're dealing with pumps and wells and electricity underground, getting to the motors. I mean, there's just a lot of things. Every time you think you got it, something's going to go wrong. I mean, it's no different with us than it is with you. We just have a lot more of it. So we would be able to provide you bulk water service here, which means that basically the whole community is getting all of its water through one meter instead of everybody having to have an individual meter, which again, within our system, it's about $15 a month just to have an individual water meter, where in looking at some of the things that you guys have,
water outage.
Yeah, that's why I turn it off.
Water leak.
it's only my brother, and I'm sure he'll be fine. What I was saying about the fee structure, again, in looking at what you guys use for water, actual whatever's flowing through your system and plant, you guys would have a water bill of somewhere around the $16 a month range, which is, again, from our system, that's about as good as it gets. Artesian, okay, so I'll take. Can't hear?
I have a question.
I will come to questions and I will answer. Everybody who has a question, I will take. So I will not leave here until you have either worn me out completely or I've answered all the questions. Again, so when we first got a request from Swan Keys, the request came in that you were looking for an operator and you were looking for a backup source. We have provided Swan Keys with a proposal for both of those options. But one of the things when we were looking at the system and where you were, and really some things that we are doing right now. So in our capital budget, that we have some projects where we saw a need that some of your equipment might fit into what we're thinking about doing. So we could either do something with Swan Keys, or we could move and we'll do something with those funds on something else and approach those next projects a different way. So we made a unsolicited, but we told what we would do, proposal to tie you into our system in return that we saw some benefit on some of your assets. So that's how it came. The board didn't come to us and say, hey, we have big problems or anything like that. We said, hey, you know what? We're in the water business. Why not see if there's an interest? So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea about it, any of it. That's how it transpired. So when we were looking at the cost, there was a cost that we gave a proposal for operating, and there was a cost to tie our system into your system. And again, when we tie into a system, we got to run some main, we got to put a meter pit in, we got to make sure that the water from your system doesn't backflow into our system, so it gets expensive. So when we put all those costs together, the cost of the interconnection into your system was about $116,000. So I just wanted, that cost is important as we go through. You can go to the next slide. So our proposal was that in the system, if we were going to provide the water, there was some relatively new water treatment equipment you'd put in, and we have a project where we could use a temporary system, and your system, as far as we refer to temporary, so it's not the kind of system we would install permanently, and it's not because it doesn't do a pretty good job, it's that we don't normally inject salt into our treatment systems. So it's not that there's nothing wrong with it, but again, it's got a higher operating cost, and when you're trying to deal and put the water back into the wastewater systems, they can get a little finicky about that. So we wouldn't use it on a permanent basis, but it would certainly help us on a short-term thing. And again, we have a 2 million gallon a day treatment plant. You can never have enough backup wells, and you have 2 decent wells. I mean, they're good wells, certainly serve this community well, and they would be nice.
Do you know how many gallons? Did somebody ask me about the amount of gallons it pumps?
Yeah, how many gallons per hour out of each well?
Your wells one does about 250, 300, and I think
1,000 gallons or
200 gallons a minute, 250 to 300 gallons a minute. And the other well does a little more than that. I want to say about 350 gallons a minute, might even push up to 400, but I don't. But
You're
those,
averaging 500
between the two of them, probably. Yeah.
per minute.
Per minute, yep. So that equates, if you're gonna, that's about 600,000, 700,000 gallons a day. So,
So do the math. If you do the math, and your height of your season is only 100,000 gallons, and you're producing 500,000 gallons, you're giving your assets to Artesian.
Oh, wait. You know what? Finish this. Wait on that.
I take your question. Probably shouldn't have. But not an issue. So again, we would basically, again, let's not kid ourselves. We would be.
Yeah, we are kidding ourselves.
Oh, stop it. Leave.
We would be. Again, we would be taking ownership of your water treatment equipment and your wells. So that's not an incorrect statement. It is what it is. So that's fine. I mean, again, so I don't want to beat around the bush on it. The association will continue to own its distribution system. And again, we can provide contract services. I know when we were here and looking at the facility, you actually had a main break, and we were able to come in and give you a hand on it. I mean, it's just what we do. So again, as I mentioned, we would purchase the existing wells and the water treatment equipment, including the filters. The building would remain yours for whatever you wanted to do with it. And the softening controls for $500,000. So that's what we were offering. Plus, we would make the interconnection to the system of what was going to cost you $116,000. We would absorb that cost, so that we would tie into the system. The association would provide us with an easement to access the wells, which we need to have, and for maintenance and future improvements. Again, the wells are about 30 or 40 years old. I'm not exactly sure, maybe one's a little newer, but eventually they'll have to be replaced, and we'd have to drill a new one. Might be 20 years from now, might be 50 years from now.
Why are you drilling a new well if you're providing your water?
I will get to that in a second.
In the future.
Again, the association would be responsible for the monthly water bill and the customer charge and fire protection charge and water consumption. And that's how they develop, pretty simple math, how they develop the average bill would be $16 a month. And we can go to the next slides. Again, there are, as I think there are benefits, and I'm sure there's negatives. I'm sure I'm going to hear a few of them. So the residents are provided with a safe, reliable supply from Artesian's regional system. That's just what it would be. Again, we meet all the primary and secondary Safe Drinking Water Act requirements, and we meet every of the new ones that come up. I mean, there are new things that the government has us look at every year. You guys are fairly small. You may not get notices of them. We're noticed on them all the time, and we must stay ahead of that curve. The residents pay lower rates than if metered individually, as we talked about a few minutes ago. The associated benefits financially by the sale of the equipment and infrastructure. The solution eliminates all future capital and operational costs associated with the association of running the water treatment plant. Now, the most difficult part of the meeting will be questions. So now I will take everybody's question, and I will go to you first, but one thing I did want to say, and I believe that when we were talking, we did tell the association that we would hold the rate for 3 years. And it wasn't put in the original proposal. The board did come back and ask that, and that rate would just stay stable for 3 years. Now I will answer I'll take the guys in the red shirt first, and then we will go.
Mr. Carney earlier on mentioned that at Shady Park, the monthly fee bordered on about $50 a month per resident. Ours is projected by you to be 16, but after 3 years, why the disparity between them and what we would be being charged? And why are they so high?
It's actually pretty easy. As I told you, they have individual meters at every home. So if you guys are at 16, just use that number, and you add 15 or $16 to that, you're at $32 right off the bat. I know that there are customers in Shady Park that have water bills in the mid-30s, and I know there's some people in Shady Park that have bills in the mid-50s. So they are all over, and it's because it's basically consumption use. So certain residents with 1 or 2 people in the home will have fairly low water usage, and somebody that has 4 or 5 people in the home will have higher, but it's on their individual use where you would have a master meter and wouldn't have those. Now what happens after 3 years? When we go into a rate case, rates would be reviewed by the Public Service Commission, and they would decide what is the appropriate rate for the class of customer you are. You would never be near their rates because they're individually metered and you're on a commercial rate. So your rate would always be significantly lower. I'm not in the business of predicting where rates will go in the future, but over the last 10 years, rates have gone up about 1.5% per year over the last 10 years. I'll take the guy in the...
How can it be lower?
I'll get to you in a minute.
It's a central meter. How can the rate be lower? Because it's still going to pump the same amount of gallons of water, which is going to be divided.
He doesn't understand that the meters are cost.
Because there is a high cost in reading and preparing individual bills.
Per meter.
So per meter. So this community will have 1 meter, not 400 meters or 600.
How much per gallon or per 1,000 gallons?
The per 1,000 gallon charge is seven something 1,000 gallons. $7.
$7.
$7 and change for 1,000 gallons. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I have $6.58 according to your proposal.
Say again?
I have your proposal, and it says $6.58.
Thank you.
My question, and this is for everybody and for yourself, maybe I'm thinking in the wrong terms. It says $17.25 per month fee, but then there's all these additional fees. So, and they're monthly fees, broken down into monthly fees. So right off the bat, I just want to make it clear, it's not really $17.25. We would have to kind of use past history, historical data to come up with the other charges somehow.
Okay, I believe you probably have an estimate that was done previous. So and
Letter
again,
that came out.
we were asked to do an estimate.
Right.
And I believe we came up with that number, 17.
25.
You folks did your...
They took a proposal from 5-10 years ago. Okay, they have been here before.
No, John,
Okay.
what he's picking up is your customer charge and your $200.
Right. Just so we're clear, I believe in that 1725,
Right.
and the number that the board has done by looking at all of your history, of which I'm not privy to, but I trust that they do the math. It's pretty straightforward. But that 1725, I believe, included all those other charges that were smaller. Because again, there's only 1 meter
I'm gonna mention them, you tell me if it's included in that 1725. You have a monthly customer charge of $126.42 per month.
Yes,
You have a fire protection charge of $111
yes.
per month. And then you have rate per thousand. If it's under 500,000, you got $1 amount, and over 500,000, you have $1.
Yes, all that was aggregated together to develop that 17.
17, so that's all. That's correct. But then you get into plant facility maintenance, you got an hourly rate, you have lead and copper, each sample set, $300. They're all separate.
That was a separate proposal if we were doing some operation, contract
Exactly,
operation.
so then automatically, the board would then have to do some kind of calculations, because again, we do an association fee yearly. So they're gonna have to come up with something other than adding $17.25 to our budget. They're gonna have to come up with something higher than that.
Well, maybe. And the reason I'll say is, I don't know that because we do lead and copper within the whole system. I don't believe that you would have to individually do lead and copper. It's, again, got to talk to the folks up at Health, but you might not have to do your own lead and coppers because you're going to be part of a larger regional system, and we'll be doing lead and coppers everywhere. So,
Well, then the other thing would be the hourly rate that you would have for a monthly on-call charge. So that's a separate fee altogether.
Again, that not part of the 1725 because you may not hire us to be your. First of all, we'll be on for no fee.
Right.
If you're on our system, you're 1720. You're 24/7 covered by us, and there's no fees. That was a contract operations if we were running your plant,
Yeah.
and that plant wouldn't be running. Now, you might hire us to do stuff on your distribution system. And again, what we've talked to the board about, again, nothing is that the amount of work on it is so small, we would probably recommend that you just do it on a team, and it would probably be 1 or 2 hours a month. And I'll tell you right now, we would put the on-call thing would just be part of our system, because again, we would be providing the water. We have an obligation to make sure that everything here is running right.
My main concern is not how you prepared this proposal, it's how the board then would address it on a yearly rate to present it to us at their annual budget meeting.
Right.
Because it's not 1725. They'd have to propose additional funding, you know what I mean?
Would be over 197,000 added to your
The 10%,
maintenance fee.
that was the wrong number. It's
If you take $17 and multiply it by 12, it's $190-some added to your maintenance fee.
But if you get called in on an emergency call service, it's more dollars.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. So they gotta calculate, we may need them 4 times a year.
Well, you already pay that.
Again,
I'm
just
gonna get into hypotheticals,
Let-
but we need that because, I'm just trying to address his question. Because we're gonna need those hypotheticals because we do an annual budget. We don't just do adding 1725. We're gonna have to put in other fees. And I wanna make sure the board is aware of that and everybody in this room is aware of that.
Okay, the board, I'm sure the board will do that.
Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I will just follow up and say, if we are providing you the water, it means our plan is providing it. There are no on-call fees, there are no call-out fees, because we are providing the water, we have to fix our own equipment, and that does not fall to the community. Now, are there other charges that the board have to figure out with the distribution system? Of course there is. But that said is, the idea that there would be additional charges to you, that's not what it would be if we are running our plants to provide you the water. It's different if we're running your plant, because that would be your plant. I'm going to go to a guy in the back, and I'll come right to you. Somebody back there had a hand up.
I just wanted to clarify, is it 250 to 300 gallons per hour on number well 1, 200, or is it gallons per minute?
I didn't hear you.
Stand up.
You didn't hear me?
Oh, God.
Alright, so on well number 1, is it 250 to 300 gallons per hour or per minute?
Per minute.
All right, I rest my case, do the math. They got all that extra water they're gonna be using if you sell your assets. They're gonna be making the money off of these wells. When really, we should be making that money. We're gonna have enough water, we can water Mars if we had to.
And who's gonna do the maintenance? Who's gonna run?
You know what, there's not really any response because at the end of the day, the plants that we have at Bayville have all the capacity that we use today, and we're not making the plant any bigger. Your wells would be put in as a additional source if something breaks down. We're not building a bigger plant. We're not going to expand the size of that plant. I'm hoping some of you will take a tour of that plant later today. Our folks are over there. Be happy to have small 15-person groups go through so you understand what we do. But when you go through there, you will see, holy smokes, they really do a lot of stuff to this water over here to make sure it does what it's supposed to do. But what you'll also see, it's not a very big site. And we're not making it any bigger. So the fact is, what we would like your wells to provide us is a backup source, and that's really pretty much what it is. I go to you, and then I
got it. My first question is, Artesian, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the business of making money. You're a for-profit company. And what this community has been told is we have a horrible water billing, everything's wrong with everything. Why would you be willing to pay $500,000?
Actually, that's an easy question. So, is that your last question? Well, let me give me the other ones and I'll try to do them all.
Okay, is it correct or not to use sodium chloride?
Say again?
Do you use sodium chloride in your water?
Salt. He
No.
always said he doesn't use salt.
We do not use that in our water.
A lot of people that have Artesian have white rings around their toilet bowls. And why is it so difficult? Is Artesian unwilling or unable to provide a copy of their water report so the people in this community can do a comparison with our water report? Because for 4 months now, I've been unable to obtain one.
I believe you can get that right off the website.
We
but
did the iron report, it's in the package. Everybody look at their package. It's our iron
Well, I haven't looked at your foolish package yet, but
You have
Okay, so we're clear. That water report is online. I will get the report to the board. I mean, it's not too complicated. So, but we are not, first time someone's asked me for that report, so
well,
get it
then we
to.
can compare our water quality to your water quality.
Great, okay. Let me handle our first question about the wells. Basically, you have a few, again, you have 3 or 4 blankets of acid. You have 2 wells, which have pumps in them. They're a little bit small in diameter compared to what we do. I think one is a 6-inch and one's an 8-inch or something like that. But again, they produce a fair amount of water, so there's a value to that, plain and simple.
Close to 1 million gallons a day.
That's right.
172,000 gallons of water a day.
What are you going to do with that?
The other side of that coin is the community here, let's just put on it, the community here uses something on the order of 50,000 gallons a day? I don't know what exactly, but let's say 50,000 gallons a day. But at the end of the day, that's all the community serves. It just serves what the size of the community is. So it doesn't matter whether these wells do 100,000 gallons a day or 20 million gallons a day. It really doesn't matter because you only serve the size of your community.
You keep pumping out of that well every day to satisfy your need for other communities. And you'll be making the money on that when this community can do it for themselves. We don't need Artesian. They're here to make money, they're to make a hell of a lot of money. Understand? Serious.
I will take, and then you.
Hi, my name's Howard. I've been looking at this. Did you go? I didn't. I need to talk to, I start things from the beginning. I don't know why Artesian was called.
He said why.
Why? No, I need to know what was wrong with your system to think that it would be best to go into this situation.
A salesman came to us to find out if there was anything that he could do for us. We did not call them back. We did not call them
Was
back.
there anything wrong?
Listen to me. We did not call them back for 4 months. Then we discussed, how do we give continuous service if the room goes down for more than a day? That was why the whole discussion began.
Okay, and a lot of people are under the misconception, everybody's saying, will, Art, we'll get our water from you.
Is that your question? Yeah.
No. Okay, you're gonna get our water from well 2 and 3, correct?
Actually. No, they produced their own with 3 wells.
I'll answer the question.
So let's get away from the misconception that Artesian doesn't have enough water to feed its plants. I mean, we have 3 wells over there. Each of them do 700 gallons a minute, plus or minus. And so we can produce 3 million gallons of water over there, of which we can only treat 2. So we have currently we have a backup well. But in the world I live in, it never hurts to have more backup. I get that. It's the world we live in. So that's why my guess is it will be rare that we'll be pumping these wells significantly, because the other 2 wells or 3 wells are a lot closer to the plant. That doesn't mean we won't be. That doesn't mean, and I don't want to, and we will pump them just to keep them ready to go. So again, we like to be able to rotate supplies. I'll take your next question.
Welcome to the supply to dad's term.
Can't hear you.
I'm getting the impression that you are gonna take off providing us with the water that we own today. Okay, and then put a meter on it, and then charge us for it.
Well, you can charge it now.
That well is gonna disappear.
Microphone.
The plant will not be producing any more water because the treatment equipment will no longer be there. So we will not be feeding any water to this community through your existing infrastructure. Yes.
I'd like to repeat my question. How are you going to recoup $500,000 from this gift that's ridiculous? How will you get your money back? He needs a microphone.
I'm here.
Okay, so the question was a pretty simple one. She said, the question is, how do you recoup the $500,000 that we would be paying to the community for your assets? Well, there are 2 things. One is, some of your assets are actually going to go into a treatment plant not associated to Bayville. So that equipment is something that I will not buy from somebody else. I'll have bought it from you. Number 2 is the wells are when we look at our emergency planning, having the extra wells, we put in our capital budget, and we have already budgeted for those kind of things. So they would just go in our normal budget. If we don't drill or take your wells, we'll drill some other wells someplace else.
There's no monetary fee.
There's nothing coming back to you at some point and saying.
Coming to you.
It's in our normal revenue sources supply us with the needs of doing our capital budget. So that's what it is. So if there's nothing, it is not it's not an expense, and it's an investment in infrastructure, and it's not looked at how you might look at buying and selling things. It becomes an asset that we own. Someone made a quick question about, we were gonna take water from here and sell it to Dagsboro. Just so we're clear, as I said, we're building a facility up there that will be interconnected, but that facility will be designed to provide all the resources there, but will be backed up by the resources down here. Go ahead.
All right, you're talking about all this in like a 3-year package. Is that, am I misunderstanding something? Or a 3-year package?
Okay, no, okay, so no, but our intent, is that we would actually tie this community into our system sometime this summer.
But you were talking about a 3-year contract or packages.
No.
Holding a rate.
All I said was when we had provided the board our rate, they requested that that rate be steady and not move for 3 years.
Okay, what happens after the 3 years?
Well, nothing happens if we're not in a rate case, but if
Just
when...
like Obamacare, everyone threw the
But we will have rate cases in the future, and someday the Public Service Commission will look at the cost of everything, and they will approve a rate increase someday.
But at that point, it will be up to you to decide what we're going to pay.
No, it goes to the state.
That's not right. So let's be clear. The Public Service Commission takes information from the water company and from our customers, and they will listen to both our customers and to us, and they will decide what is the appropriate rate to cover costs. It is not decided by the water company. The water company cannot unilaterally raise anybody's rates.
In writing?
It's law. Again, it's statute law. That's the way it runs. We are a regulated company. We are not a company that can just change the rates.
I have a question. Oh, let him finish. The question deals with probably a partial answer that you gave already. The PUC will set the rates for the whole area, the regional rate, or will be based on individual communities?
Our rates are not based on individual communities. So they aggregate all of our 300,000 customers into different classes. So we have residential classes, we have commercial classes, we have some industrial classes of rates. So they will decide what is the appropriate residential rate, what's the appropriate commercial rate, which is what you guys would fall under, and what is the appropriate industrial rate. So we are one rate, one state in our different classes.
Okay, so you're not lowballing the rate, just to make it clear so that we have the good information.
Actually, that's important. Just be very clear. We did not make up a number for this community. We took our current commercial rate, both the two different sets of one under 500,000 and then when it goes over, and we use that based on what the consumption of the community is to develop the rate. There's nothing in here that someone is going to go 2 years from now and say, well, we got these guys because we manipulated something and now we did. It was just what the actual rates are. So that's what it is. And the board has the numbers. They come right off our website of what we have to charge around the state. So there is no gimmickry there. It's just what the math is.
Okay, thanks. We need good information, and we're getting too much of this yelling and screaming.
Thank you.
Go ahead, he's going to ask you a question.
2 questions I have is, and the easement. What's going to be involved with the easement? If we would sell all this, can you go in there and build something? Can you go in and drill other wells without the community's consent? How is this easement going to be handled legally, or no one's talked about that? Secondly, do I understand you for clarity that for 3 years we're going to pay X amount of dollars, no matter what our consumption is?
No, again, your rate is based on consumption. So based on the history of what you pumped in your community through your plant is this numbers that we based what you would, because you're not a growing community, it's one size. So your rate should be, or your consumption each year should be similar each year. So we took a five-year look at different things, and so you are consumption-based, but it's based on what you use over the last 5 years.
Okay, and my last question is, you said we're not a growing community, but we are a growing community. Because we're getting beautiful homes in here, nicer homes. Not to say anything's wrong with the Colonel, don't get me wrong. That could get me in trouble.
I just to be clear, I didn't mean anything other than the fact that you have a certain number of lots within the community and it's not expanding the number of lots.
That's the same way it is now.
Actually, I do want to answer, he asked a very important question and it deserves an answer, and it is the easement. So, in your current water plant area, you have 2 wells. And in there, they're located, and again, what we're asking for, and we have to have, is so that we have the ability to maintenance those wells and to manage them, we need the right to access and do that work. And someday, those wells will fail. They all fail. I don't care whether they're 20 years old or 80 years old, all wells fail. And we need the ability to replace them someday, and we would go somewhere 20 feet away from them and we would drill a new well and we would abandon the old one. It shouldn't impact what your area is because you'd be using it for the same thing. But again, we would need unfettered rights to be able to do that. We would have to work with the community to say, hey, we don't want to put it in the middle of a tot lot, but we need to put it over here, and we would work with you guys on that. So, but we would have to have access to do those things, and they would have to be done collaboratively.
I nominate Jack.
Okay.
So,
Hold on. I just want to make someone's got the microphone, and you're jumping in front.
sorry.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank Artesian for coming in to the board for bringing this to us so we can learn. That's an important thing about our community is that we know what's going on. We keep discussing the wells, but the wells don't function by themselves. There's the delivery system. And you just talked about the aging of the wells. Well, I'm concerned about the piping, which you would not be responsible for in this deal, that goes to each person's home. I recently had a friend who lost water at her kitchen sink and throughout the house because the iron and silt had filled up the delivery line, and she had to have that redug at a cost, an expensive cost. And so I'm just wondering about a special assessment that might come in the future, and that if we went down this path, you might end up dealing with our aging pipes that deliver the water to our homes, and what that cost would be if it had to be done on every street.
Okay, I'll take a shot at that one. Okay. So you're right, what we're talking about is just the supply and the treatment and the storage, not the delivery. Now, we would be installing a new pipe to take the current raw water from your wells and take it over to the Bayville plant so the water goes there. That would be a pipe that would be our responsibility, not yours. Now, your distribution system. Again, I will be frank with you, and I don't mean to scare you, but it is what it is. All distribution systems will fail. You have a pretty good one. It's made out of PVC. It's pretty resistant to the chlorides and the different things around here. But someday it'll fail. My belief is that it's probably 30 to 40 years away based on the 1985 installation. You'll continue having, breaks here and there like any other distribution that you have to pay for. But when you have to fully replace your distribution system, it will be millions of dollars. And just because of what it costs to install that, and at the time that you have to do that, the lines will have to be made larger and to carry fire protection, because the law and fire marshal will require that. It's way in the future, it's something, but again, it will happen someday because it happens everywhere someday. In this case is whether at that point, the community may decide, we need to get out of the distribution system. Artesian, would you make these investments? And we would address that at that time, and probably would probably work with you because probably the fact is the community won't be able to pay for it, and the public utilities will probably be asked to step in and assist. And because we're right here, we would probably be working with you to do that. It wouldn't be the first place in the state that we've done that, but I did say, it's way in the future. Again, I want to be very clear, you have a good, robust distribution system here. But like anything, they don't last forever.
So just thank you for that answer. So just to piggyback on that, if it's true, like what happened in this one home, where, the delivery lines are silted in with rust and silt, are we going to have this kind of thing happening here and there all over if we converted to you and our water pressure dropped? Because I understand at Bayville Shores, we did, just one house, we did a water pressure test over at Bayville Shores, and they were 60, we're at 80 now, with multiple floors. Going up, their water pressure is much lower on their second floor.
Okay, I don't know what your water pressure is. I'd be shocked if you had 80 pounds of distribution pressure, because very few communities have that kind of, you might, but I'd be shocked if you had that pressure. The normal system pressure that we have is 65 PSI coming off of our tank, because it's right there. You're going to have roughly that type of pressure through the community, but as your lines get smaller through the community, there will be some friction loss. We can work with the community and see what kind of pressure it is, but my guess is the problem that occurred with this person was probably the line that runs from the main and then goes through the service line to the house. It would be my guess what that is. And that's not normally a problem with the community system. That would be a homeowner problem once it hit, because I think you're fee simple lots, so that would be a cost that the homeowner would have to deal with. I've been working with Artesian now for 20 years. I've never had a customer had their line completely jam up with anything. Now that doesn't mean they don't fail, that doesn't mean but I'm not aware of where they corrode to the point that they just stop working completely. Now old galvanized and things like that will rust up, and I don't know what the on-site, what your individual lot material is. It might be very different than what your distribution system is, because I don't know how every home was built. But if you have a galvanized line going into your home in this environment, it probably someday will.
We have some, but ours is all PVC, and we have a valve before you get there.
And I think you flush your system every year, maybe twice a year, and if you do that, you're probably not having a lot of sediment buildup. In the back, you had a question.
I'm about numbers. I run a really successful plumbing, heating, and air conditioning business, like I said. I'm looking at these numbers. We're doing 100,000 gallons a day that comes out of that well that I get, all right? You're saying that in the peak season, the board, we're doing 100,000 gallons a day? So we're doing July, we're doing 100,000 gallons a day. So if we maintained our system, and I remember looking at that email back in there, and I don't know if it was the lawyer or the accountant or somebody recommended to have a maintenance guy or a maintenance crew work on that system. So what happens if we have that system up and working? You get a community water board or whatever who works on that, or you get a relation with a good plumber or a good mechanical firm that's inside the community that comes out and works with you guys. I'd be more than happy to give you my expertise on this. I've done it for a long time. My situation would be, wouldn't it be easier to maintain your system that produces almost 1 million gallons a day? And hey, let's ask Artesian, why don't you run a line to our wells after we clean our system up and we'll sell you water? How's that?
Any other questions?
I have one.
How much does it cost Artesian?
We treat our water with salts, apparently. So how do you treat your water? chlorine or bleach or?
Well, actually, we both probably use a form of chlorine for disinfectant. I mean, we both disinfect. Again, what we do is basically we precipitate iron. So basically what we do, you're doing an ion exchange, basically taking one molecule out and putting another one in, where we're basically removing the iron through basically getting the iron to get into a form that it can be filtered out. So we filter it out where you're using more of an ion exchange. And that's primarily the bigger difference.
And one question maybe for the board. Do we expect our yearly maintenance fee to increase because of this? Do we expect it to stay the same, or?
If we went to Artesian, well, we were able to negotiate with them 3 years. We know it's not going to go up. But the truth is, every year we spend money on water. It's sort of an exchange of the two expenses kind of thing. So we really, George, did you do a number on if it would increase? I think it was a 17 cents or something stupid. It would be 17 cents a month cheaper per lot.
Yeah, just real quick, when people say water's free, I don't care whether you produce it or we produce it. It isn't free. I mean, we like you, we have to repair wells, we have to repair equipment, we have to buy the aids to make sure that the iron comes out, you have to buy your disinfectants. You are always spending money, and no matter how good you think you have it, the next week something breaks. It's just it's the nature of what it is. So the misnomer that water is free, I think the board does say it right. We are replacing one expensive way you're paying for your water with another. And it's going, and again, they may not be equal, that we might be more, we might be less. It is what it is. The numbers are what the numbers are. I think the board has looked at some of these numbers and done some of the math. But at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise me that we would be more expensive than you in producing water from a small system. But we would expect that we would be competitive because we do it on a much larger basis, and we would expect our water quality to be more consistent because we do it on a larger. And that doesn't mean anything you're doing is wrong or there's any real problem. It's just what we would expect. I'll take one more question.
Okay. Actually, go ahead. How much does it cost Artesian to drill a well?
Well, we drill big wells, so it all depends. We drill wells that are 1,000 feet deep, and we drill wells that are 100 feet deep. So a 100-foot well might cost us $50,000. A 1,000-foot well might cost us $250,000. They are all over the map. It all depends what diameter you're looking for and the material you're drilling in.
You had mentioned possibly in the future there might be an expense if you had to drill another well here.
It's not, you think of expense, we think of investment.
But here's the question. If you're supplying Swan Keys water, why do you need to drill another well here? Isn't the water coming from Artesian?
Yes, I tried to say it and I'll say it again. We're in the business of reliability and redundancy. You have wells that are there that, again, we probably won't use them every day because we already have all the water we actually need on a day-to-day basis. But, as I said, our business is belts and suspenders, and if you guys have supply that we could put into our inventory, it makes sense to us.
So basically what you're saying is you're going to pump water from here over to your plant, treat it, and send it back?
Yes.
At a higher price?
Actually, again, the board has done an analysis and they believe it's actually a little bit lower. All that said is it'll be a change of cost because, again, you're treating 50 or 100,000 gallons a day. We're treating 2 million gallons a day over there. Again, the economies of scale of how we treat probably brings our cost down a little bit.
Then the whole thing makes no sense, because basically what you're going to do is take the water, treat it, and give it back to us. Why not spend less money to upgrade the system we have and cut you out altogether?
And what if our wells go dry?
Again, I think your math is probably wrong, but at the end of the day, we serve a lot of customers in Delaware. We would love to serve this community. But at the end of the day, if the community decides they don't want us to serve it, it is what it is.
based on your numbers, these wells pump 500 gallons a minute. That's 30,000 gallons an hour, 720,000 gallons a day. Now, in December, January, March, there's not anywhere near that requirement in here. So you're taking that excess water to your treatment plant and going somewhere else.
That is wrong, because most of our wells are off in the winter, because most of our people are gone too.
But you're not gonna get any of this water and resell it somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
Of course, you know what,
Of course
I've
he
already
will.
answered that
He
question.
owns it. He can
Half
do
of
what
us
he
are-
wants.
Of course we are.
That makes no sense.
Everybody should know that everyone should know that the maintenance fee is probably going to go up because of the trash pickup. Is that true?
Yes.
So when you find this out, don't all scream it's because of the water. It's going to be because the costs have gone up. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Ruth.
Can I say something about the trash?
No.
I want to get the water stuff done.
Well, doesn't mean we don't talk about trash.
Wait.
500 feet. Well, at 500 feet, what would it cost?
A well at 5, again, diameter matters, but a 6-inch well, 100,000. He probably knows
I
better.
just bought a lot, I built a new house 2 years ago, 400-foot well, and they hit a dry hole first, 200 feet, they drilled 400 feet for the good well. To do a yield, drill it, do a yield test, and ground it, was $9,000.
Not the kind of well we drill, but that's okay.
Is everybody aware of the fact we're spending $100,000 a year
How
on
many
water?
customers do you have?
What I was going to say about the trash, we'll get water in a minute, how low we are. And we're just going to keep them. That's why we have to.
Go ahead.
The trash has doubled. We had a really good contract that Diana Shea negotiated because we had less people for them to pick up. They doubled our trash. Our contract's over and they doubled it. So I feel that you're going to do the same thing.
He just went over that, Ron. He can't.
Again, just so we're clear, Artesian does not raise the rates unilaterally. Again, it's all based on cost of service. It is approved by the Public Service Commission. We cannot do what your trash companies do. It doesn't happen. Now, again, rates will go up like everything, but you will never have an instance where all of a sudden our rates are doing what you're saying the trash companies. Again, it doesn't.
Please, let everybody have one voice. Stop this. I need you to tell me a story.
Which one?
When I read somewhere that you take the irons off of the water and package it and sell it as fertilizer to the farmland, which is wonderful. However, it's a state of Delaware law now that you have to do that. We don't do that. Are we in trouble here?
Oh boy. Okay, so
Let the man speak.
well, it is a story because what you said isn't exactly true. We do take our iron when we remove it, and we cut bills, and we do either take it off in liquid form or we do press it, and we build it into a cake that is taken and farmers do use it for certain supplements in their farming. We pay them, they don't pay us. So it is not it's not free, it's not an income to us, it is a cost to us, but again, the way we do it, we think we limit those costs the most. As I say, and I have mentioned to the board, that someday, somebody is going to come and knock on your door and say the way you discharge your backwash water is not the right way to do it. I don't know whether that'll be 20 years from now or 5 days from now or whatever. But again, it's not the best way of doing it. There are ways to either try to get it into the sewer system or maybe He had a consulting engineer to come up with a way to manage it, but again, brine solutions are kind of touchy to get rid of. So that's the best answer. I'm not going to say someone's going to come over here and just rake you over the coals over it, but it will be a problem someday.
Last question, Jack.
At least the regulation.
Okay, so I'm down to my last question, John. Last question.
Are you out? No, I'll go a couple more rounds.
Well, good. Stick around.
But I'll meet you at the plant. If anybody wants to take a tour, I'd love to see you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your information. Whether we like it or not, we appreciate you coming in and being a part of what we're doing here. Thank you. My question is really for the board because I want to kind of wrap my head around some numbers. We're proposing a $100 increase in our maintenance fee for this coming year, correct? If we go with Artesian, do I understand it correctly that if you all came as early as in the summertime, that we're going to have to come up with more money per lot owner?
For what?
Because I'm asking where the cost is coming. If $16, the 16.
If you raise the dues $100.
Yes, sir.
That gives you $60,000.
Yes, sir.
The cost of trash removal went up $42,000, plus I had to make up $23,000 for this year.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
I'm asking about, you're not going to come in July and not give Swan Keys a bill on a monthly basis. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I mean, if you come in July or
Again, my understanding is that the cost of what we're saying the water will be on a bill from us, and what your true expensive has historically been are almost identical.
I understand
so
that.
there should be no additional cost from the water side to you folks, as I understand it.
So again, we're not going to see an increase above the $100 for the next year. That's correct. That's correct.
Once the budget gets passed, then it's...
Okay. But then the following year, will that $16 a lot owner come to us?
No. You've got a 3-year guarantee, plus remember how much you're saving from not spending.
You're paying it now in your maintenance.
So you're saying that we are not going to see any increase in our maintenance fee for, well, I'm sorry, no. Let me just make sure I'm clear. I'm not saying we won't see an increase in the maintenance fee at all. I'm saying that the water should not be the issue that would raise it up.
Right. Correct.
Thank
What
you.
was not discussed that I wanted to say earlier that George Phillips and I discussed. Their first number, this proposal had come 5 years ago. Their first proposal, what they did was they added 10% to the usage. They added 10% to the usage numbers for 5 years ago. We went to the drinking water department in Sharp-Culligan and got our records for 5 years, gave them to George, he put them in their system, and that number we keep talking about, 17, is actually $15.63 now on a 5-year average of water. It's in your packet. The board has given you every piece of paper pertinent to this that we have. And we expect questions and ask us, but, you know, John, thank you. I think you've been more than patient. As far as the water, if I had 10 million gallons of water left over at the end of the year, what am I going to do with it?
Sell it.
To who?
Artesian.
You know what, just to say, we're not going to buy your water from your wells. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. There are, again, I do want to say, we'd love to have you as a customer, we really do. But at the end of the day, what we're asking to buy from you are things that we can get elsewhere, and of course we would. So it just seemed to me, I'm the one who got us into this mess by telling George to make this proposal, is that it made sense to me that this would be good for the community and good for Artesian. If the community sees it, that's great. But if they don't, we're still your neighbors. And that's the way it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have to use the microphone.
Wait a minute.
Is the sale based on, I mean, your contractual, we hired you to contract to service the building. Is that a no deal unless you purchase our water?
As I told the board the other day, they asked the question, would we not connect to you or would we not run your system? And I told him that we made those proposals and we made all three, so we would do anything the community would like us to do.
I thought on the bottom of that page was that one was not acceptable without the other.
No, three separate.
Three separate proposals, and they will stand behind each one as written, but they're proposals. No.
Just so we're clear, if there's a line item that you think said that, it's not right. The fact is, we are neighbors and we work with our neighbors. So, that's what it is.
I know you haven't had a chance to look in your package yet, but when you do, please review this particular sheet. It spells out all of, by line, what you're paying now for water service. It comes out of your maintenance fee, but it's on here. If we sold to Artesian or to whomever, some of those expenses would disappear. We wouldn't be buying salt anymore. We wouldn't be using propane or rooter or heat pump or plumber or electrician, at least for our water building, because that expense would all be Artesian's, correct?
That's correct.
So that's another reason why it's a trade-off of expenses. Now, if we go with that option too, we do have the expense of the $116,000 if we want to go the route of having an emergency water supply, correct?
That's correct.
John, George, the rest of the staff that's here, thank you. Everybody, I need you to hear from Kevin Burdett. All right, Kevin installed these wells, and he also has current knowledge of what goes on in the water industry. But right after Kevin's done, first let me ask you a question, because poor David is sat here listening. Has anybody got a legal question? And let me say this, preface it. If we were to make a deal, because you all decided, with Artesian, David would put that deal together. He would have the documents, he would have the knowledge, and he would accumulate all of these questions to make sure we're covered, like the right-of-way to get the pipes to the well. Does anyone have a question for David? Yes, ma'am.
If the community votes no for this, does that mean you are not going for it?
Oh, yeah, I told, in the very beginning,
I just
okay,
wanna make
I
sure.
will not be the decision here. I've had that happen to me last year, and somebody abstained, and all of a sudden it fell on me, and I went with the documents that were previously written, is why I accepted it. In this particular case, I've told everybody, if anybody abstains and it falls on my shoulders, I will vote whatever those little postcards come back with. All right? I will not make that decision for Swan Keys.
And nobody else can.
And I'll tell you, a lot of board members don't want to make the decision either. And that's it. It's tough. This is tough. This is not an additional expense. This is kind of going level because it costs us money. I don't have time. They don't want me to get into it. But all of these items in the engineering report, which you're welcome to pick up in the office Tuesday, he's saying $30,000 to $50,000 a year needs to be put in an account just to cover water before you say you're going to replace something. We need to recondition the well. We need to add a salt silo. We need to add all these things. All these broken parts here, and I don't want to be abusive, but these broken parts are things that came out of that room. I cannot tell you what we've been through in the last 2 years. That, I told you before, that briefcase is about that thick, and it's all dealing with water and education. And it's